Welcome, hey, come on in. Yeah, this is not diners, dives, and whatever ever. It's not chopping block. It's not the cooking channel. It's the program you thought you were getting, and that is It's Your Business. Happy to have you here, but remember last time I promised that I would have some cookies and ice cream for you this time. Well, I didn't make the ice cream, but I did get the cookies done, and the cookies are now out of the oven. And by the way, my recipe, a lot of people like my recipe, like my cookies. Basically, you just take a little shortening and some oil, and then you put that together, and I use wheat flour and white flour, then use some soda and some baking powder and a little salt, throw in some ground flax, that's good for you, and also put in some oatmeal. Then of course we put in a lot of chocolate chips and we mix them up, and we call them healthy cookies, and they're not really that healthy, but they're better than some of the cookies that don't have those kinds of things in. But that was not the point today. What the point was to be able to provide you with some cookies. So since you're here and since they're out of the oven, I thought I'd just kind of share them with you. I don't know if you can let me get them here where you can see them a little bit. Let me see if that will. Now you can see them a little bit better, and they smell really good. They don't look as beautiful as some of those cookies, but it's because I put so many of those good ingredients in them. But at any rate, you're welcome to have. You can't have one. You can't reach them. You know, that's the subject for today's discussion. It has to do with application. You know, you can't smell them, you can't taste them. That's application. So let's start there and go on. So what about application? On our model, let's put it as an all-consuming component. It affects every part, every component of our example. And let me give you some examples. One day, leadership of a small grocery chain met with the staff members. At that meeting, he announced that there were going to be some changes, and they were going to manage differently, particularly in the way they operated with employees. Hey, they seemed open to learning, coming up with new ideas. Fantastic. And to help with this new philosophy, they even went so far as to buy a book that explained the new direction, and they made sure that each and every employee was given one, with the advice that everyone should read and become familiar with the new direction. Now, I don't know that everyone did that. However, an individual that I knew did make himself very acquainted with the new direction, as it were. So what happened? Well, over time, those employees who continued to operate as they always had, kind of disregarded the new direction idea, unfortunately were the ones who got the positive moves in the company. And you may have guessed that those who tried to work the new philosophy, studied up, they didn't fare as well. What happened? Well, we'll get into some answers and some recommendations a bit further on. But let me share another example. A governing board wanted to do a thorough review of the direction of their organization. They wanted to take that, and from that they wanted to develop a solid plan. From that plan, they wanted to determine a timeline for implementation and come up with an effective evaluation system. That was a very wise and commendable decision. To facilitate this movement, they brought in an individual, an expert, as it were, who was known for expertise in this area. And to ensure a wide range of input, they went out for many sources as possible. They developed a committee, a group of people made up of community members, professionals, leadership, board members even, and even youth. Well, the group met together a number of times and spent considerable energy and effort and time. The professional leader that they had hired was very effective in facilitating progress. And after quite a while, a lot of effort, some significant progress, and in fact, the group was nearing some critical conclusions and the development of the plan. Then, without explanation, the board decided to stop the whole process. They disbanded the committee and went their own direction. What happened? Well, what do you suppose were the feelings of all those who donated their many hours? Now, why the management in the first example we gave you did not follow through and do their new thing, or why the governing board in this second one, why they didn't continue on and complete it, we really don't know, and we probably never will. However, we do know the results. First, nothing was gained. No improved structure, no better alignment, no improved production, no greater staff effectiveness, no review for productive changes, and on and on. We do know that there was a lot of time and effort expended, and we do know that there were a significant number of individuals who were upset. Community members aren't used to that kind of treatment, and employees. In the case of the board action, some were very upset. We also know that respect and support were lost of the leaders in the first example and the board members in the second. Now, does that mean you should not consider changes, involve others, do committees, or do whatever? Well, you know the answer to that, of course. It does mean, however, that in the idea of application, before you examine carefully, think through, before you go full bore into the change or procedure. If you're the leader, some questions you should be asking before this whole process. Number one, does this process change or possible outcome fit into our focus? We'll be talking about focus next program. It's one of the pillars that supports optimal success. Two, are we really committed to letting the process run its course, even if the people doing it seem to be coming up with ideas we don't like? Now, maybe that's what happened in the second group. I don't know. Three, if we're concerned about recommendations the committee might make, or if we think they're not being effective, and are we willing to sit down with them and express our concerns and get their input? Helps a lot when you do that. One of the most offensive events, even disrespectful to the group assembled by the board, was the early end of the project after a lot of people had put in a lot of time and were coming to some conclusions. To the group, the message was, your time and effort aren't that important, and we'll make the decisions. No discussion, no explanation was ever shared with the committee. That treatment will soon, not soon, be forgotten. Before you start into your program, have you set parameters? That is, before the first committee meeting, have you let them know what those are? They need to understand what is expected. It prevents misunderstanding and also allows you to put aside some things that you might not want them to work with. Are your events, approaches, direction tied to a trend or a competitor's approach? Did you just get that from someone out there and it's just kind of something you admire? I mean, the question really is, why are you doing this? The second check you need to make before making changes involving others like the committee is, are you committed to the change and to the process? And will you demonstrate that by respecting opinions and different of ways of thinking? When you ask others for input, the goal should be getting different opinions and different ideas. Otherwise, the whole thing is a waste of time. Second, have you provided the training and funding as necessary? Whether you're providing new direction with leadership, making all the decisions, or establishing a committee, is very important that there is leadership helping them understand exactly what is expected and how to do it. Don't leave that to chance. And this board that we talked about didn't. Overall, understand what you're proposing and or supporting, and have a real good reason why you are. Well, in summary, our model now looks like this. The foundation of our progress is still tied to the willingness and openness to learning. And during this session, we have added, encompassing all facets of the model, application, actually doing something. You know, it isn't too hard to talk like you support input and involvement of your employees and others. It isn't too hard to tell them that you believe in their ideas and that kind of thing. It isn't too difficult to talk as if their ideas and discoveries are really important to your organization. However, it may be difficult for you to actually apply those ideas and directions. That is those areas, procedures, ways of operating that you don't feel comfortable with changing or even making suggestions on. As I said earlier, they should be declared out of bounds. Don't get them there, and don't let the people become involved in those areas. They're often called sacred dishes. Well, that's it for today. And remember, your comments and ideas are always welcome. Email me at rummler@appliedfocus.com. And I hope you will be in on the next program. We're going to be talking about one of the pillars. Until next time, thanks for being with us. And remember, you always have choices. It's your business.